伊達ではないことを教えてやる。我が名を知るがよ。我こそがアインズウルゴウン。考察だ。
シャルティア・ブラッドフォール、一方的に楽しませてくんなまし。
アインズ様、もう我慢しなくても良いですよね。アインズ様に無礼を働いた者には全てことごとく死になさい。
互いの能力を知り連携が取れた俺のかつての仲間ほどだ。では始めるぞ。
やりですね。
そろそろ終わりにしんしょうか。
Hey everyone, this is Nitro. In this video, I wanted to answer a question that I keep getting asked over and over again, and that is about the 3 Overlord collaboration heroes. So, first things first, this banner is not actually coming until December 17th of 2020, so this is completely close to Christmas time. Since we're in July, these banners are very, very far away. So I have to admit, I am surprised by the amount of interest in these characters given it's 5 months away. But in any case, I will go over them because this is just a question I keep getting asked again. So the first hero to cover then is Ainz. And Ainz, it should be mentioned, is a free SSR. From the event that's going to be running, you're going to get him at 3 stars. So you will have to grind him up from 3 stars all the way up, but if you choose to do so, you get a decent SSR out of this. His basic role is as a versatile mage, because he has 3 single target strike skills. One of them is Dark Reaper. He also has access to 2 AoEs that debuff. Black Hole is one of them, the other is his 3C. And in addition to this, he can also teleport himself to locations. He has a self-teleport skill. Finally, his 3C is actually 3 separate skills that can all be used. The first option is a self-buff that increases his mobility by 1 and turns him into a flying class. The second one is a skill that can heal himself by 100% hit points, so he gets to self-heal to full. And then the final skill is an AoE attack that can be used to debuff enemies. Overall then, he can be pretty valuable as another AoE attack mage or single target mage for PvE content. But you have to keep in mind that unlike a lot of the other AoE mages that are now commonly used, he only has 3 range, right? Black Hole is a 3 range attack. His 3C is also a 3 range attack, so he has a range limitation, although there is the factor that he can teleport himself forward or give himself +1 mobility. So in that sense, he would be like a 4 mobility hero with 3 range. So that makes him kind of like Bozel with speed boots, right? Although he doesn't have access to a faction buff. So for good or for ill, he could potentially be used, but I think if you have other SSRs built for AoE attacks, they are better, right? Characters like Rene, characters like Bozel, characters like Licorice, I feel all 3 of those are better AoE attackers than Ainz is. So that's my overall conclusion of Ainz. So the next character then to cover is Albedo. So Albedo's basic role is as a tank, and in very many ways, Albedo is simply an improved Vargas. She's an improved Vargas because she actually guards against magic attacks, unlike Vargas who only guards against physical strikes only. Like Vargas, she has the ability to revive once per battle. I think that revival comes from one of her skills though, rather than from her talent. In combat, her attack is equals to 1.6 times her defense. This part is interesting because it's part of her talent rather than a buff. So I don't think that can actually be removed. Okay. So unlike Vargas, who can get that dispelled, Albedo cannot ever have her conversion get removed. And finally, she also has an additional effect where she deals increased damage in combat, and that increased damage ranges from around 55% to 75% depending on her star level. Last but not least, just like Vargas, she does not have a ranged counterattack. So she can only counterattack against melee strikes like Ledin and Vargas. So overall, I find Albedo a little bit weird because her classes are infantry and demon, right? I mean, you can certainly use a demon class tank in PvE content. There aren't that many holy class attackers that you face in PvE. But an infantry tank is just a no-go in my opinion, right? At least for PvE. Maybe the infantry tank is a very viable option for PvP purposes, but then again, since she can't do range counterattacks, I'm honestly not sure you want to use her as a tank in general for PvP. So ultimately, as a result, for long-time players, there's just really no reason to build Albedo, right? You already have Lenin, Vargas, Landius, Juggler as tanks. You know, technically, Alte Muller and Bernhard could even function as tanks, although not very good ones. But yeah, I just don't see any reason to build her unless you just started when the Overlord collaborations came. And finally, the last hero to cover is Shalltear. Shalltear's basic role is a melee DPS, and in most ways you can say she's a significantly improved Elwyn, right? So, first of all, she has a 2-range skill that functions very similar to Roar. This is a skill where the soldiers will participate if you attack at 2 range, and it does 1.3 times damage and dispels 2 buffs. So she has the ability to remove buffs, long story short, right? I generally wouldn't say you want to use it at 2 range because we've seen over and over again where 2 range attacks with melee soldiers have them waste strikes because the hero, the general, will attack the same target as your soldiers do. Next, her 3C skill applies a cannot be healed effect on the enemy. So it's sort of like Sword Soul, but without the 5 buffs that get dispelled. What makes her an improved Elwyn is this next point, which is that her talent gives her +2 mobility. Her talent only kicks in if she's at 100% hit points, but you know, if she ends her turn, she gets that +2 mobility buff. Even if she takes damage afterwards, she does keep that buff for the next turn. So that buff increases her mobility significantly and is what makes her potentially useful. Like Elwyn, she will heal after melee combat, and she also has a unique effect where the first physical attack on her every 3 turns does greatly reduce damage to her. I think it's something like around 50 to 75% physical damage reduction. So she really is difficult to deal with physical strikes. Last but not least, she also has a 1-point passive called Blood Frenzy. And the primary effect of this is that after actively attacking twice, you get to act again. So what that means is you attack once, right? It builds up 1 counter on Blood Frenzy. You attack a second time the following turn, she gets to act again and strike 1 more time. So being able to strike 2 times in a row can make Shalltear like an absolute tank buster, right? Any hero can attack twice in a row, like Hiei, like Leonhard, you know, like all these kind of heroes are absolutely deadly against tanks. And Shalltear being able to do this is, in my opinion, really, really crazy. So as a result of that, she seems to have the most potential for PvP, right? She's just an absolute tank buster. Any hero who can attack 2 times in a row will most likely kill off the enemy tank. And it's also worth noting is that if you're using her in her Lancer class, with Apex boots, she has 4 base movement. Throw in her talent, the +2 mobility, she has 6 base movement as long as she's 100% hit points. And then because her +2 mobility seems to come from her talent, okay, it might stack with Breeze or Tenyo's buff for 8 or 9 mobility. This last point I'm not entirely sure of because I don't play on the Chinese server, but if her talent does stack with Breeze or the Tenyo's mobility buff, she's going to be insane. In the first place though, even if she only has 6 mobility, that is still incredibly versatile and useful. So we'll see. I mean, overall, Shalltear seems like an incredible hero that may have a lot of use for PvP. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. So this is, once again, it's worth mentioning, none of these 3 heroes are coming until pretty much Christmas, right? December 17th. So it's really a bit too early to start saving to draw for these heroes, in my opinion anyways. Unless you plan to draw for them and get them to 6 stars right as soon as the banner arrives. So, thanks for watching everyone. I hope you found this video useful as a brief summary of all 3 heroes. And on that note, Nitro out.